Welcome to Lesson 4, the one where TypeScript and React finally meet. The first 3 lessons type the world. Now we build with it. The mental model is simple. A component is just a function that takes props and returns JSX. No classes, no this, no lifecycle. Pass the wrong prop and your IDE catches it before runtime. By the end of this lesson, that shape is muscle memory. Here's the map for today. 4 mental models that compose every React component you'll ever write. 1. Components are typed functions, props in, JSX out. 2. Props are interfaces, the contract the compiler enforces. 3. JSX is just type-checked HTML, validated element by element. And 4. Conditional and list rendering, the 2 patterns behind every UI. Master these, and the rest of the series is just variations on this shape. So let's install that first model right now. Every React component shares one shape, a typed function that takes a single props argument and returns JSX. Define your props as an interface, destructure them in the signature, return your markup. That's it. And notice what TypeScript gives you for free at the call site. Missing name, caught. Number instead of string, caught. 5 lines, 1 shape. Memorize it because everything else this series teaches is a variation on this. Now let's stretch that shape with 3 moves you'll use constantly. First, destructure props right in the parameter list. It reads like inline documentation of what the component accepts. Second, give defaults with an equals sign so variant falls back to default when nobody passes one. And third, meet children. The special prop holding whatever JSX sits between your tags, typed as React node because it could be anything renderable. Same shape as before, just richer. Interactivity follows the same pattern. Handlers are just functions you pass to props like onClick or onChange. The senior reflex, always type the event parameter. Mouse event for buttons, change event for inputs, form event for forms. Once you do, the IDE hands you everything. eTarget.value, ePreventDefault, eCurrentTarget, all auto-completed, all checked. Inline arrow or extracted function doesn't matter. Same shape, same safety net. Now, 2 patterns that build basically every UI you'll ever ship. For conditionals, use ANN when you just need an if, ternary when you need if-else. Both live inside curly braces, both return JSX or nothing. For lists, it's map, returning elements, with one non-negotiable rule. Every item needs a key, and that key must be a stable ID from your data, never the array index. React uses it to track items across re-renders, and getting it wrong causes the weirdest bugs you'll ever debug. Here's how components actually talk to each other. Data flows down through props, events flow up through callbacks. That's the entire pattern. The parent owns the state and defines what happens. The child just receives a product and an onAddToCart function and calls it when the button is clicked. The child owns nothing. And because the callback is typed, trad number, trad void, TypeScript guarantees the parent and child agree on the contract. This same shape scales from 5 components to 5,000. Once you've got the shape down, these 6 reflexes are what separates someone who writes JSX from someone who writes React that scales. Destructure props in the signature so the contract reads like documentation. Use stable IDs for keys, never the array index. Index keys corrupt state the moment a list reorders. Keep components under 200 lines. Prefer ANN for conditionals, but watch out for falsy numbers. Lift shared state to the common parent, and reach for props before you reach for refs. Declarative React beats imperative DOM almost every time. Pin this one. 12 patterns, 1 screen, the daily reference. Across the top row, the component shape, the props contract, and children typed as React node for anything renderable. Middle row covers defaults, passing props, and conditional rendering. Bottom rows give you ternaries, lists with stable keys, event handlers, fragments, and JSX comments. If you internalize this grid, You've internalized the lesson. Now the traps. 5 mistakes that look fine and compile clean, but bite you later. Index as a key breaks reconciliation when lists reorder. Calling a component like a function skips React entirely. Parens on-click fire at render, not on click. Count and double ampersand will happily render a 0. And mutating state directly? React never sees it. No re-render. Each one is a 1-character fix once you've seen it. Time to build. 3 exercises, and each one ships into the L12 capstone. So this is your portfolio starting now. ProductCard locks in the prop's shape, a typed interface, destructuring, an on-click that knows its signature. Product list drills the props down, events up pattern with map and stable keys. An empty state introduces React node as a prop, the slot pattern, where the parent decides what goes in the action. And that's lesson 4 in the bag. Function components, props as interfaces, JSX expressions, events typed end-to-end. That's the one shape, and it's now muscle memory. Tomorrow we make it move. useState and useEffect, the 2 hooks every component reaches for. State that survives re-renders in one line. See you in lesson 5.